On ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 250-plus radio markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM dial plus Sirius XM channel 80 plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. On the line with yours truly right now, co-host after a morning drive show, 710 ESPN LA, former number one overall pick in the NFL draft by the New York Jets, former champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under John Gruden, obviously a former Dallas Cowboy, also doing an outstanding job as a radio host and an analyst for the family here at ESPN. The one and only Keyshawn Johnson is on with yours truly. What's up, big time? How are you, man?
What's happening?
How did you feel about, I mean, when you looked at these games Sunday, what was the biggest surprise to you? What was the biggest thing that jumped off your mind based on these conference championship games that took place this Sunday?
Well, I think it was the lack of running games, particularly when you talk about the two teams in the NFC, the lack of running game with the New Orleans Saints, the lack of running game with the LA Rams, even though Todd Gurley seemed to be banged up. But C.J. Anderson, prior to that, had some phenomenal games running down the stretch. But you didn't see much, considering that the Rams gave up 5.1 yards per rush attempt throughout the season, and then New Orleans lost their big nose tackle in the middle, but that yet still it didn't negate anything from happening on the positive side for either one of those teams.
You know, Keyshawn, I look at, so much was made, so much noise had been made about that no call on the pass interference. Obviously, it could have decided the game, but did you harbor the same disgust that so many people out there harbored about that call being missed?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it was ridiculous. That, to me, I know a lot of people want to dive into, well, Sean Payton would have just ran the ball 4 or 5 times in a row and kicked the field goal, whatever the case is. It didn't happen that way. It clearly of how you view several players and a coach in this particular game, which would be Sean Payton, Drew Brees, Michael Thomas. I mean, this changes certain people's legacy. This can, if Drew Brees goes on, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. There's no question about it. But if he goes on and he goes to the Super Bowl and he beats Kansas City or beats New England, he gets now 2 Super Bowls. Sean Payton is now a 2-time winning Super Bowl coach who now is Stephen A. will be talking about future Hall of Fame coach. Mm-hmm. Now, all of that changes everything. My nephew gets an opportunity to win his first Super Bowl title. All that changed.
Well, who's your nephew? Who's your nephew, Keyshawn? Who's your nephew?
Michael Thomas.
Okay, Michael Thomas. Man? Okay, well, listen, man, I forgot about that. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry I forgot that was your nephew.
You got to stop working like that.
You're right. Keyshawn Johnson right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. What did you think of the job Aqib Talib did on him? He only had 4 receptions for like 36 yards.
Man, Talib didn't do anything on him to take him away. Now, I know people want to give Talib the credit because he came back and Mikey had a non-Mikey game. Okay. But it was more about just the overall defensive scheme that was put together by Wade Phillips, and they couldn't get the football to him. Drew Brees certainly wasn't going to force balls to him in those situations, so they continued to use Kamara down the stretch. They threw the ball to Kamara a lot, and when opportunities presented themselves for Mikey, then they tried to hit him, and they just couldn't connect. Connect on the touchdown. The touchdown that should have been in the end zone to him was underthrown by Drew Brees. Talib wasn't on him. The interception at the end of the game that was tipped in the air, Talib wasn't on him. But you know how that goes, Stephen A. They say, oh, he didn't do nothing to that kid.
I got you. As you reflect on the game, how much better could Sean Payton have coached this game in your estimation? I'm thinking about, running the football as opposed to throwing it on first down, chewing up the clock, milking stuff down. He could have done things to assist himself in that regard. I think he could have found a way to out-scheme Wade Phillips and make Michael Thomas more of a focal point than he actually ended up being. I can point to those kind of things as well. What do you point to?
I think Sean had him prepared. I think Sean coached the best he could. I think Sean made some typical Sean mistakes in the game. At times, getting cute late in the game before the pass interference, or there would have been pass interference, or helmet to helmet, or whatever flag you wanted to throw on there. He tried to throw a quick slant, one-step slant to Mikey.
Yep.
Drew Brees bounced it in the turf, stopped the clock, gave the Rams probably another 35, 40 seconds on the clock. Mm-hmm. That was a mistake, in my opinion, not being prepared on special teams when Westhoff is one of the best special teams coaches to ever grace the sidelines in the NFL. On the fake punt right then and there, up by 13, not really in a set, gave them a look that they were looking for to be able to run that and hit it and change the momentum of the game for the Rams. That was somewhat of an overall coaching mistake. But, he can't be perfect in everything. He can't be perfect in everything.
What did you see from the Rams in this particular game and throughout these playoffs that you think could potentially cause a problem for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots?
Well, I think you got to start off with Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald. If Sue and Donald do their job, and Brockers and Fowler do their job of applying pressure and keeping Brady in the pocket, then you certainly are going to find yourself on the winning side of the football trophy, where you look at Wade Phillips and what he was able to do to them a couple of years ago in Denver when he was a defensive coordinator, when they went on to win the Super Bowl. You want to apply that Von Miller pressure. You want to have Brady rattled. You want to look at the New York Giants from several years ago. You want to look at the Atlanta Falcons from several years ago, the Baltimore Ravens from several years ago, teams that have given Tom Brady fits when they rush him and get at him and get him off his mark. You want to also take Talib and Peters and Joyner and whomever else in your secondary. Don't give them free access. You don't want the linebackers to let guys like Julian Edelman and Hogan just run off the line. Do. I'm open. Look at me, Tom. No. You want to chuck them at the line of scrimmage. The one thing with Bill Belichick coach teams, is if you treat Bill Belichick team the way that he treats your team, the things that he don't like to do, the problems that he presents against you, and you present them against Tom Brady, and you present them against the receivers, and you jamming those dudes. If you look at the Kansas City Chiefs game, man, they was letting Julian Edelman. I could have did that. Just go in motion and run free down the middle of the field. Nobody decided to reroute him. Nobody put their hands on him. Nobody did anything like that. You go back and you look at, or you think about it, Stephen, the rule was implemented because of the New England Patriots, the 10-yard chuck rule, forcing a guy, because the New England Patriots was pushing dudes 10 yards down the field. So they started putting the 5-yard chuck rule in, because what Willie McGinnis and Teddy Bruschi and those guys would do is drop and reroute the receivers. And so therefore, people started saying, wait a minute, man, we can't, you can't do this. You can't do this. They're not going to let you get free access. So why would you allow Gronk to just run down the middle of the field?
Yeah, but I'm wondering, Keyshawn, how you stop all this. And here's what I mean by this. You got Gronk, who, by the way, did an exceptional job blocking against Kansas City. Plus, they put him in motion, put him out wide. 1 minute he's on the line of scrimmage, the next. You got Edelman. You know you have that. Chris Hogan, you can't ignore. But then you got this cat, James White, coming out of the backfield, catching receptions like a receiver. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all of those different things. And I'm like, how do you stop that? Particularly if the ingredients to people's success in the past was getting to Tom Brady, but now this guy's getting rid of the ball inside of 2 seconds.
Yeah, but that's why you disrupt. You make him pull the ball down. You disrupt the receivers at the line of scrimmage. I don't think that Talib is going to allow Hogan and Julian Edelman to just run down the middle of the field. I don't think that Marcus Peters is just going to allow them to run down the field. I mean, everybody else seems to always try to stop it, but they don't, because they don't disrupt them. They let them just run down the middle of the field. You can't do that. You say, well, Gronkowski, man, how you going to stop him? The Kansas City Chiefs played it perfect on the slant that he called late in the game. Eric Berry was lined up on him. Eric Berry pushed him to the safety. Guess what the safety did? The safety decided, I'm not going to hit him. I'm going to just let him catch the football, and I'm going to take a side step. Like, man, you in position, make a play.
Keyshawn Johnson breaking it down right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's talk about that Kansas City New England game. A lot of people, I'm one of these people. Listen, I know it's revisionist history. I get all of that, Keyshawn. But my attitude is simple. We see the rules that have been implemented sort of favoring a more offensive flow in the National Football League game. The better the offenses are, the better the scoring is, the more attractive it is to the mind's eye. People believe that that's contributed to the elevated level of popularity within the National Football League, sort of debunking what people were saying that the sport was going in the wrong direction. Having said all of that, we got a league MVP to be in Patrick Mahomes, who drops 31 in the second half after being held scoreless in the first half, 24 points in the fourth quarter, and he is left standing there on the sidelines, unable to get on the field in overtime. Why won't folks support the notion of the NFL implementing the college football system where both teams get a shot at it in overtime?
You know, I think you got a fair point there that both teams should probably get a shot at it. I don't know. What do you give them, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, do a whole quarter? I don't know. But I think both teams
I'm just talking about possession. That's it.
Oh, so you want to give them one possession.
No, what I'm saying is if Tom Brady scores, right, it shouldn't be New England scored a touchdown, so Kansas City doesn't even get a chance to get on the field. I say let Patrick Mahomes come out there and get a shot at it. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's fine. I think you can do it like that way, or you can do it like the NBA, play the whole quarter. You can do it that way too if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly players that would want to do that because, like you said, if you give an Aaron Rodgers in overtime, Drew Brees for the most part in overtime, Tom Brady, whoever all these quarterbacks, you giving it to them first, they probably going to go down and score considering that they was just marched down the field to tie it up in the first place on you. They probably going to stay hot, and if they win it, they probably going to score.
Right.
And the game's probably going to be over. So I think both teams should, if they decide to do a possession for each, yes, or a whole quarter or 10 minutes in a quarter or whatever, but both teams should be allowed to touch the football even though one scored.
Key, even though Damian Williams played a sensational game, particularly in the second half where he had 3 touchdowns, am I wrong in still believing that if Kareem Hunt were available to the Kansas City Chiefs, it might have been a different outcome? They might have been even more prolific and potent than they were for the entirety Sunday afternoon's game?
Well, not just Sunday afternoon's game, in the rest of the season without Kareem Hunt.
Correct.
They've struggled in terms of running the ball. Scoring touchdowns is cute. I could give you the ball at the 2-yard line. You can score a touchdown. It doesn't mean anything to me. What's your average per rush attempt? How many times did you carry the football? That's what's important. Those are the things that's important. If I give the guy the ball and he scores, okay, yeah, he scored. But can he consistently rip off 10 and 15? Can he consistently be a threat in the passing game? That's where you get your value from. If you go back to the Saints and the Rams game, the Rams got 3 yards of carry. But what they did is they never got away from the game plan of play-action pass. They attempted to run the ball almost 30 times because Jared Goff needs to stick the ball in the belly, pull it back out to be effective. And that was what won the game for them. They didn't get a lot of yards rushing, but yet and still, they still used the play-action pass game. So I think if Kareem Hunt was there, there's no question in my mind he would have given the New England Patriots fits. No question.
Keyshawn Johnson right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. With that being said, the play action and how Jared Goff and Sean McVay were able to utilize that to their advantage, particularly when it really counted. How do you think that should work against New England in the Super Bowl 53?
Well, you know Bill Belichick, man. Bill Belichick got 2 weeks to prepare. You got a puppy of a quarterback and a puppy of a head coach going up against 2 grizzly veterans in Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And you know Bill Belichick's not going to let no young quarterback come in to Atlanta and just outshine him in his mastery of the defense and his scheme. He's just not going to do it. And on top of that, I believe that he's not going to put Tom Brady in a position of failure by dropping back and trying to throw the ball 50 times when he knows that that's the Achilles heel to Tom Brady. He wants to protect his quarterback. He wants to use him when he can. He wants to do different things in different sets on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, he wants to confuse Jared Goff. He wants to confuse Sean McVay. Sean McVay was 15 years old, man, when Jared Goff when Sean McVay was 15 years old when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick won their first Super Bowl. So, I mean, you know, in this one, man, I got to go with the Wizard.
That's right.
I just got to go with the Wizard. Even though the hometown team, I want to see him win, but I also got to bet with my brain and not my heart.
I feel you on that. I need to do that more often my damn self. Keyshawn Johnson right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm looking at this and I think about Brady and I think about Belichick, and so much noise was made about Belichick and how he wanted to move on from Tom Brady in favor of a Jimmy Garoppolo. How does all of that look right now? I mean, we're talking about the genius that was Bill Belichick that was looking to move beyond Tom Brady. And I'm seeing Tom Brady, and regardless of the numbers, because like you said, you don't pay that much attention to the 2-yard runs or whatever the case may be. I don't pay attention to a game here or there where Tom Brady struggles, because I think when it really, really counts, he's going to be Tom Brady. What do you think about all of that right now?
It's 12-4, takes you to the second seed. You're going to win. You're going to do all of the things that make you the second seed. You start the year off by the controversy of training camp and Gronk and this, that, and the other, and I don't like him. He really doesn't like me, and I wish. What happens is it becomes fascinating with superstars when you cover the number of them in the NBA as well as in the NFL.
Right.
The media sensationalizes things. And I tried to tell people this early on my show or when I'm on Countdown or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. Don't pay attention to that stuff, man. And I never want to discredit you journalists, mm-hmm. but I don't get caught up in that sort of thing just because somebody said, well, he frowned at him walking in the locker room. So that means Brady wants out and Belichick doesn't want him.
Well, I agree with that, Keyshawn. But what if, like for me, I can only use myself as an example. What if, and this is hypothetical right here, but it's emblematic of what my career was like particularly when I was a beat reporter and what have you. What if a player the caliber of Keyshawn Johnson comes to you and directly states, bam, this is how I feel? That's not the media then. That's you.
But if I'm telling you
right.
directly, I don't like the coach. I don't like John Gruden. You're getting it from me.
Right.
Don't assume that I don't like John Gruden because I looked at him cross-eyed
exactly.
or I frowned at him or screamed at him on the sideline. Don't assume that I don't like him.
Right.
Don't take. But what happens too often in our sport is everybody's chasing for a story. And everybody wants to be the first to break it.
I agree.
And everybody wants to be the guy name goes across the scroll reported by. Mm-hmm. It was never any friction in Massachusetts to the point where they were going to part ways. It was never that. It was never that egregious.
Right.
It was never. Everybody has situations in their household, man. Everybody.
Yeah, totally.
And at the end of the day, they both going to Atlanta on the same plane.
And at the end of the day, they're giving you the results. So what the hell is there to talk about?
What is there to talk about?
I agree.
You don't know what you're talking about. This guy, man, look, if you get caught up in that, it's almost like the Carson Wentz thing that's coming up now. Oh, they don't like Carson Wentz. Players say he's
That's where I was going next. That's where I was going next.
Go ahead.
Because my problem is that I had a problem with any the anonymous players or whatever. I'm like, how the hell did all of a sudden he become selfish? This guy was a league MVP candidate. Go ahead.
But he is selfish.
How?
He's selfish.
Carson Wentz?
How? Every quarterback that's a starter in the National Football League is selfish.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
They all selfish. You don't think Aaron Rodgers is selfish?
Oh.
Think about it. Aaron Rodgers screamed at some young receivers during preseason. You don't think that was selfish?
Yeah.
They're all selfish, and that's okay. They all arrogant in their own way.
That's why they're successful.
That's why they're successful. Tom Brady stand at the podium. He's giving you a press conference, a soundbite. He's arrogant doing it.
Well, let me ask you this question, Keyshawn. Let me ask you this question, Keyshawn. Is it all the same? What I mean by that is this. Whether it's Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, or Aaron Rodgers, or another quarterback being selfish. Now, they're saying the same thing about Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh. Do you judge it all the same, put it all in the same bowl? Or is it different because you got a quarterback in one situation and a wide receiver in another?
I put it all in the same boat. Other people separate it because of the position that they play. Right. The quarterback can do what he want to do. He can have 5 lockers. The moment that a receiver say, I need 2 lockers, this guy here, he's a diva. This guy, who does he think he is? I don't separate the two, and I never have. You don't get preferential treatment because you play quarterback and I play receiver. Because when you're dribbling the ball at my feet, guess what? Mm-hmm. It's going to be a problem. When I'm dropping balls, guess what? It's going to be a problem. So we on equal ground. I don't put quarterbacks, at least when I play, and you play quarterback. I didn't put you ahead of me. We on equal footing. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? You ain't getting the first class seat if I'm flying on the same plane.
Here's the $64,000 question. With that being said, is there a situation that you believe it's warranted that somebody does receive preferential treatment compared to others as a professional athlete?
Everybody's different. Every coach is different, and you all going to get treated differently. I was treated differently by every single coach that I've ever had, different than other players. But that's because that's how that coach knew how to get the most out of me, because he understood the importance of that. He understood what was important to me, right or wrong. He understood that, you know what, he doesn't want a roommate on the road like everybody else. So he could have his own room because it makes him play better. It makes him play better. He doesn't like to come out early to warm up with everybody. It makes him play better. He's focused. He doesn't want. I remember John Fox told me when I was playing for Fox, he wanted me in the locker room with everybody doing the pregame prep talk, and I would go sit in the tunnel outside the locker room door on the concrete and stretch. And he told the guy to come get me one time, Stephen A. And I told him, I said, man, I've been doing this 10 years, man. I'm not getting ready to change right now. And he said, okay, well, he doesn't want to come in. And John Fox never said another word about it because he realized that was my routine, and he wasn't going to get in the way of it. So everybody's different, man. Antonio Brown is a different, unique talent. And if you want to deal with that talent and manage that talent at a certain level, then you do it. And if you don't, you allow somebody else to inherit that talent and see if they can manage it.
Do you think the Steelers should trade Antonio Brown?
I think the Steelers should do what is in the best interest of their team. Now, I sound like a press conference guy right there, right?
You beat me to it. Keyshawn.
But no, I think they should do what is in the best interest of the team so everybody's happy. If it's keeping Antonio and they can work it out and everybody can be happy and they can go on and win games, then great. But if it's going to be a problem and his agent's going to be running in every other week talking about he wants out and Antonio won't show up in practice and it gets in the way of the team, then they should move him and see if somebody else wants to deal with what that is.
Very last question to you, Keyshawn, on a totally different subject, but I had to get your comment about this before I let you go. 8 NFL coaching openings, 5 black coaches fired. As of right now, 7 have been fulfilled. None of them minority candidates. And then even though Brian Flores, for the defensive coordinator for the Patriots, is expected to get the Miami Dolphins job. What were your thoughts about all of that?
Well, I think it's great for him to get the Miami Dolphins job. I just think that we, as black men, are not put in the positions of power to make decisions to allow our coaches to continue to rise. And what I mean by that is if you look at the pecking order and how these things go most of the time, in particular on the offensive side of the ball, even for the defensive side of the ball, it all starts at the ground level. See, a lot of people think it starts up top, but it starts at the ground level. And what I mean by that is they come in as quality control, and there's not a lot of black quality control guys in the National Football League. And that's the lowest level, right? In the moment that they move from quality control, Stephen A., they move to quarterback's coach. And then they move from quarterback coach maybe to offensive coordinator. But they never bring us in a quality control position on the offensive side of the ball so that we can move to the quarterback side, and then we can move to offensive coordinator, since that seems to be the prerequisite for getting jobs.
Right.
We coach the running backs, the wide receivers, and that's pretty much it. They don't allow us, outside of maybe Byron Leftwich, because Bruce Arians made that decision on his own, they don't allow us to coach those positions. And because it's a copycat league and everybody seems to think that they're going to get the next Sean McVay and all this sort of stuff, they let them rise up through the ranks, and then they allow them to get a title as offensive coordinator, whether or not they're calling the plays, but they give the illusion to the public and to the people that are out there, oh, they're calling the plays, they're kind of sort of doing it, but they're not really calling them. They're game planning for us, and they're presenting to the team. So when they don't ever get the opportunity to do that, you never know that they have the skill set to run and manage and do all of those sort of things. Me personally, if I was the general manager, president of a team, I don't care if you're an offensive coordinator or not. Can you do what I need done? because you can go hire the right person.
Can
to
you
do
be a
those
leader?
things.
Can you be a leader of men?
Can you be a leader of men? I heard somebody the other day on one of these shows talk about Coach Lynn versus Sean McVay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why Coach Lynn is just a guy. He doesn't, he's a guy who played the game and he knows how to communicate to the players. But this is why they struggled on offense against the New England Patriots, is because they don't have a real offensive coordinator and a head coach. Mm. A lot of people wouldn't be lining up to hire Coach Lynn if he was available, but they would be lining up to hire Sean McVay. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, that's a damn lie. Sean McVay was hired based on relationships that he had with the people that made the hire.
That's right.
So let's not get it twisted. But when they don't have their facts straight, they go out there and make these type of false statements.
Hey, I got something worse for you. Even when they do have the facts, Keyshawn, some folks don't tell it on purpose.
Well, that's true. I mean, you can look at Cliff Kingsbury. What has he ever done to get the head coaching job?
Please don't get me started with that. I went off about that.
I'm just saying.
I've been going off about that for 2 weeks.
It's not a black or white thing.
Right.
It's more of a right or wrong thing.
Right.
And it's wrong how they do the business. It's just wrong how they do it. But sometimes you gotta get hit real hard before you wake up and realize. That's why I take my hat off to Stephen Ross, because he's been doing it the wrong way for so long. Now all of a sudden,
you're doing it right.
He decided he's getting ready to do it the right way.
Keyshawn, appreciate you as always, my man. I know you got New England winning the Super Bowl, even though you ain't rooting for them. You want Los Angeles to win, but you ain't betting against the master, Bill Belichick. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the knowledge as always, man. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. The one and only Keyshawn Johnson. You can listen to that and so much more. Morning Drive co-host, 710 ESPN LA. Or is it ESPN LA 710? Either way, damn it. It's 710 in LA. All right. I like doing that. Might agitate Scott McCarthy a little bit, but that's my buddy who takes care of me all the time, and I love him. Thanks again to the great Keyshawn Johnson. Listen to absorb what that man just told you and how he broke down so many things. It's a lesson. School was in session over the last 25 minutes or so with my man Keyshawn Johnson right here. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Peloton is a game-changing indoor cycling bike that brings the energy of live studio classes right to your home anytime you want, winter or summer, rain or shine. Whether it's a monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing the live leaderboard year-round on average. Peloton members are riding their bikes more every year and crushing their personal records along the way. So learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more in a few.